Welcome to the Sleepy American, where we drift back to a softer, slower evening, when childhood ended not by a clock, but when the streetlights blinked on. Tonight, we'll stroll through warm sidewalks, skinned knees, and the hush of cicadas, memories that feel like they're tucked inside a favourite hoodie. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Whether you're in a small Midwestern town, a coastal city, or halfway across the globe, this bedtime journey is for you. Breathe out, loosen your shoulders, and let the glow of those old lamps guide you home. The first sound is the hinge, thin and familiar, a little whine of metal that's been opening to summer for years. The screen door sighs against the frame and slaps shut behind you with that satisfying thwap that tells the whole block you're out. Your sneakers meet the porch boards, warm from the day, and the air outside greets you like a friend who never knocks. Grass sweet and hose water cool, a hint of hot tar from the street softening to the late sun. You pause at the top step because there is ceremony in this moment. You check the scuff on your left knee, fresh, excellent, and you finger the treasures in your pocket. 2 rubber bands, a smooth skipping stone, 1 bright bottle cap that's already a coin in a game not yet invented. From the open window, the house hums with kitchen clatter, radio static, a parent's voice. Back when the streetlights come on and you shout okay with your whole chest, knowing that promise is the only clock that matters. The porch rail under your palm is sunburn warm and a little splintery. You hop the last step because stairs are for grown-ups, and the yard gives under your shoes with that spring of summer thick grass. The neighbourhood is a map you never had to learn, but somehow always knew. Ms. Daly's hydrangeas frothing like blue clouds, the cracked square of sidewalk that catches scooter wheels if you forget, the mailbox dent no one can explain, the giant oak whose roots heave the earth into little green hills you must conquer. Somewhere a sprinkler ticks, ticking across a yard like a patient metronome, and down the block a dog announces himself with 2 serious barks and 1 friendly one. A screen door across the street hooks open, and a kid you haven't called for yet appears in the rectangle of shade, already squinting toward you as if he felt the invitation carried on the air. You lift your chin, a greeting that's half nod, half question, and he answers by stepping off his porch. No plan is discussed. Plans are for afternoons. Evenings are for finding. You jog to the curb and balance on the rounded edge of the gutter like a tightrope walker. Arms out, face to the sun that's leaning low and gold. Heat ripples off the asphalt, drawing shimmery lines you can almost trace with your hands. The sky is the colour of lemonade left in a glass, thin and pale near the horizon, deepening overhead to that blue that makes you feel like you could just keep running and run right up into it. Somewhere someone's dad drags a lawn chair into the shade. The legs rasp across concrete and a low baseball game murmurs from a radio. Calm voices calling small miracles one by one. Every noise, every smell feels like a yes. The whole street wears that open, generous feeling, like a library without a librarian, like a carnival after the tickets are gone. You test your speed because it's free. Driveway to mailbox, mailbox to telephone pole, back again, lungs filling with warm air that tastes faintly of dust and mint from the crushed leaves under the hedge. The wind you make is its own tiny weather, slipping under your t-shirt, cooling the sweat at your neck. You try a jump you would have been too cautious for before dinner, and you land it. A perfect 2-footed thud, and even though no one saw, the victory blooms big enough to share. A car drifts past slow, and you throw a wave like a small mare, chin up, hand loose, and the driver lifts 2 fingers off the wheel because that's the law here. On the corner, somebody's tricycle has been abandoned sideways in the grass, the front wheel still spinning a little, chiming against its crooked bell. You kneel on the sidewalk and draw a line with a bit of chalk you found near the steps, just to feel the powder break to see the sudden permanent of your idea mark the world. The chalk is soft, the colour loud in the grey, and a cloud of dust coats your fingertips. Sweetness of sidewalk stone catching in your throat. If you lay 3 squares, it might be hopscotch. If you add a circle and some arrows, it might be a racetrack. If you draw nothing else and just run your thumb along the edge of what you made, it is still something, and that is enough. You tuck the chalk behind your ear like a pencil, because that's what artists in movies do. And for a second you feel precise and important. The foreman of the evening shift of fun. Far down the block, the cul-de-sac curves like a spoon, and you can already see the places to hide, to leap, to challenge gravity. There's the low wall where you can sit with both feet on your scooter deck and push off without standing. There's the tree with the knobbly branch that fits your palm like it was carved for it. There's the manhole cover with the city's name stamped in an arc you like to trace with your shoe. Your friend arrives beside you without announcement, throwing his shadow over your chalk line, and you both squint into it like scouts. "What are we doing, Rules?" he asks. But it isn't a real question. It's a spell that opens a dozen doors. "Everything," you say, and you mean it, and it's not bragging. Evening is generous. There's room for everything. You push off together, that slow first stride that gathers itself into a run, and the day shifts. Time loosens. The rules: don't go past the big oak, stay together, back at the lights, float around you, friendly like lifeguards who whistle only if they have to. You feel tipped forward into possibility, the way a kite feels just before it lifts. The block smells like hose water and tomato vines, pennies and dandelion milk, and the faint tang of someone's barbecue sauce beginning to caramelize. The air has texture. It feels like silk where it passes your cheeks and like corduroy when it rubs your forearms. The curb becomes a launch pad, a treaty line, a finish tape, depending on whose foot hits it first. You forget about being tall or small because out here you're the size of your courage. A second kid appears, and a third, from houses you know by the sound of their doors, by the pattern of their porch lights, by the way the gravel crunches under their bikes. No one says team, but teams happen. No one says go, but you go. A dragonfly threads the air between you, and for a breath it's a messenger, a neon needle stitching friend to friend. The puddle left from the afternoon storm has a skin of leaf bits on top. You crack it with your toe and watch the little archipelago drift apart, satisfied in a way that doesn't need explaining. Above you the power lines hum, like quiet voices agreeing, yes, yes, yes. You hop the cracks you always hop, the sacred ones you never step on because superstition is just another kind of game, and you let your foot land heavy on the safe squares, sending a thud through your bones that feels like drums. Someone calls a name that isn't yours, and still you answer out of reflex because names right now are community property. An older kid glides past on a bike with cards clacking in the spokes. Your idea first maybe, but who's counting? And he lifts his chin at you with a royalty that says you might be fast enough to follow if you dare. You consider it for exactly the right amount of time and then don't, because the evening has provided your own kingdom to rule. The low wall, the chalk line, the tree shadow that is a door if you jump just right. The sky softens another shade and the sun slants down, laying long, syrupy stripes across the street you can run through, as if you're stepping over rivers of light. You press your palm to the telephone pole just because it's there and discover the resin tack of sap, the warm grit of creosote and a nail hammered in ages ago that once held a missing cat flyer or a yard sale sign. Your fingertip fits the half-moon dent beside it like evidence that other kids, on other evenings, have also paused here to feel this exact moment. That thought makes your chest go big and light, like you swallowed a balloon and it brought its own sky. A breeze finally lifts, bringing the far-off laughter of someone you don't know yet, but might by the end of the week. And you take off again, your legs remembering how to be springy even after a whole day of being legs. You cut a corner you're not supposed to and then cut back, conscience tingling. But the street smiles and lets it slide because it knows you're practicing for bigger choices. A moth skitters around your face, and for half a second you are a giant planet with moons and weather and rings. You swat and miss and laugh, and the laugh is the real point. It snaps the moment into focus like a Polaroid that decides suddenly to be a picture. Somewhere a screen door opens again, the same Hinge song, the same soft thwap, and another friend drifts into orbit. You don't have to turn to know who it is, you can read them by their footsteps, by the rhythm of their breath when they're excited, by the way they always kick a pebble into the gutter like it owes them money. "Race you," they say, and there isn't a start or a finish, only a shared acceleration that feels like agreement. Your shoes grip, your arms pump, your body's as if it too wants to join the race. The asphalt seems to rise up to meet you, forgiving your stumbles, stretching itself into a runway that doesn't end. Every step is louder than the last, thudding in your ears like a drumline keeping time for the evening parade of children. You aren't chasing anything in particular. You aren't running away from anything either. You're just running because you can, because the air is thick enough to lean against, because your legs and lungs feel like they were invented for this one purpose. When you slow down, laughter clings to you, hanging in your throat, spilling out in ragged bursts as you clutch your side, gasping and grinning. The whole world feels brighter now, even though the sun is sinking lower. You notice details you missed before. The way the leaves on the trees look like they're glowing from the inside, lit up by the last stretch of daylight. The sound of a ball bouncing 2 streets away. The faint ding of an ice cream truck that might, if you're lucky, turn down your block. Your skin tingles with sweat drying in the breeze, and you stretch your arms wide like wings, convinced that if you just lean forward enough, the air will hold you up. Another kid appears, as if the race pulled them out of the hiding. They carry a stick they immediately declare as a sword, and the game shifts without words. Now the sidewalk cracks are lava, the front yards are kingdoms, and the telephone pole is a castle tower. You scramble and climb, inventing rules as you go, each one more ridiculous than the last, but all of them perfect because everyone nods in agreement. You never once think to stop and ask if this is silly. Silly doesn't exist yet. There's only real, and right now the stick really is a sword, and you're really defending the block from invisible invaders. Your pockets empty themselves one by one. The stone becomes a magical talisman. The rubber bands turn into treasure, and the bottle cap is suddenly a shield. Each object carries more weight in this moment than anything you'll own as an adult. You guard them fiercely, passing them between friends, arguing in whispers about their true powers until laughter ends the debate. A passing car slows to let you dart across the street, and you wave in thanks, still half in your story, as if the driver were just another character in the play you're living. By now, the block is alive with children, some from your grade, some younger, some older. No one remembers how it started, only that it did, and now the whole street belongs to you. You feel the gravity of it, the way the world tilts in your favour, how the adults sit on porches or peer out kitchen windows with half smiles, knowing they won't interrupt. The world feels safe, infinite and close all at once, and then, just as the light begins to thin into that dusky purple, there's a moment of stillness. You stand in the middle of the street, chest heaving, sword stack dragging across the pavement, sweat drying cool on your neck. The cicadas buzz louder, like an orchestra tuning up for the night, and you realise that the evening has only just begun. All of this, every sound, every smell, every scrape of sneaker on concrete, was only the prologue, the opening act before the real adventure unfolds. Would you like me to keep going until the exact moment the first streetlight flickers on, stretching this chapter into one long continuous memory that flows directly into the next? Handlebars fit your palms like a secret handshake, knurled grips a little sticky with the day. You tip the bike off the kickstand and feel its quiet language come alive through the frame. weight shifting, chain whispering, tires offering a low rubber hum that promises distance. You throw one leg over with a practiced wobble and push once, twice, and the ground lets go. That's the first magic. The exact second your feet stop being about balance and start being about speed. The sidewalk becomes a conveyor belt of squares, white seams flickering under your front tire like a zipper you're unfastening from the day. A clothespin holds a bent card in your spokes. Some player with a moustache you don't know, so the wheel talks and clicks, and each click is an applause that says, "Keep going, keep going." The wind starts as a ribbon at your cheeks and grows into a whole shirt, a cape, a parachute you have to lean against to slice through. Your eyes water just enough to make the light bloom, and the sun pours through the spinning spokes, turning them into a strobe that cuts the world into 100 pieces and puts it right back together again. You lean into the first turn and feel the bike lean with you, both of you agreeing to trust physics without reading the fine print. The bell gives a bright, useless ring just because happiness asks for sound, and your shadow, long and skinny, races beside you, wheel to wheel, until you pull ahead and it stretches to keep up like a loyal dog. You test the brakes, once a soft feathering that makes the rims sing, then a harder squeeze that pitches your weight forward and makes your belly flutter. Coaster brake riders push back with their heels until the world slows as if someone turned down the volume. The rear tire leaves a light skid mark that feels like writing your name on the street in a language only kids can read. You smell hot dust lifting off the asphalt where the tire laughed too hard, and you grin because the road is keeping your autograph. Your friends arrive one by one, guided by a sixth sense that activates at the same hour every night. One has streamers that hiss at speed like tiny comets. Another has a milk crate zip-tied to the back, rattling with treasures, bungee cords, a screwdriver from someone's dad's garage, 3 popsicle sticks, tape wrapped around itself into a fat ring. Someone's chain squeaks like a mouse because oil was not applied, but a promise to apply it has been made. Someone else's seat is duct-taped in a silver patch that makes them look faster than they are. Chorus of kickstand snaps up, and suddenly you are a formation, a flock. No one says ride out, but you do, falling into the places that feel assigned by destiny. Tallest in front, wobbliest in the middle, show off with the new bell weaving at the back like a shepherd. You take the long curve by the oak and feel the bike dip and spring, the tires whispering over tiny pebbles that ping against the frame like little cheers. Down the hill, small but yours, you all stand on the pedals at once, bodies rising in a shared tide. The speed coils in your chest and stretches your mouth into a grin that the wind tries to steal. You let go of the left handlebar for 3 counts. 1, 2, 3. A hand out like a wing, then grab back quick. Heart drum rolling, secret proud, and somebody shouts, "No hands!" And for a few unbeatable seconds they hold their palms up to the sky like an offering, the bike running straight from sheer belief before a tiny wobble brings their fingers back to the grips and everyone breathes again. Laughing because we all want the trick to work and also want to witness the save. The street smells like warm tar and clipped grass, garden hose and petunias, with a faint stripe of chain grease that will tattoo its crescent on the inside of your calf before the night is done. The mail truck trundles into the neighbourhood and you make it a moving obstacle, slingshotting past with a polite wave, a small bow to an adult ritual that coexists with yours. Sprinklers stitch arcs of diamonds across a lawn and you all debate the wet route for a millisecond before deciding as one body to slice through it, the cold spray hitting shins and spokes, blinking off reflectors like camera flashes. The water lifts the dust so the street smells newborn again. Droplets spin from your tires and tick your legs like 1,000 laughing fingers. You pop a tiny wheelie, not much, barely enough to say it happened, and land with the soft slap of rubber that feels like applause you gave yourself. The kid with the milk crate tries to bunny hop the crack near Ms. Daly's hydrangeas and clears it by the width of a worm, which is to say it counts. You draft behind your fastest friend and learn about wind you can't see, how your front wheel tucked inside their wake makes everything easier, like a secret path. You mumble something about pelotons because you heard it on TV, and it feels like an incantation that makes the group click tighter. For a block, you're a team with matching invisible jerseys. The corner store is officially out of bounds, but figuratively right there, so you ride parallel to temptation, practicing your turn signals like real road people: left arm straight, right arm bent, wobble exaggerated so the joke lands. Your bell rings again for no reason, your foot scrapes the curb just because, and suddenly you remember the first time this felt impossible, the day the training wheels came off and the neighbourhood grew teeth. That memory flickers, a parent's running shoes slapping the pavement, a steadying hand at your back the way their breath sounded like the ocean next to your ear. The sudden horrifying lightness when the hand disappeared and you were on your own, the panicky wobble that became a line, the shout you didn't know you had, "I'm doing it!" Now you ride standing without thinking, hips rolling a little side to side like the grown-ups do, and you want to shout again, but the words would only slow you down. A dog sees your moving pack and can't help it. He gives chase, tongue out, tail flipping the air like punctuation marks. You all whoop and scatter in a polite chaos that never crosses the rule lines, a flurry of kids and chrome and pedals that resolves into order exactly 3 houses later, when the dog loses interest and peels off to the important work of barking at a fence post. You regroup without stopping, drifting back into formation with little hand signals and chin lifts that say left, bump, car, cool skid. Communication by glance is its own language, fluent and fast, invented tonight, and somehow older than you are. On the big smooth stretch you try for speed records. There are no watches, only lungs and bragging rights. Someone counts down from 3 and the sprint begins, the air thickens with effort, chains sing in higher keys, and a small perfect ache blooms in your thighs. You measure victory at the crack by the alley, or the first driveway after the red mailbox, debased markers that never quite settle into law. It doesn't matter who wins, because winning becomes a reason for everyone to circle back to re-argue the rules, to run it again until the argument melts into laughter. The asphalt holds your skid hieroglyphs, black swoops left by shoes dragged back on pedals, stories the grown-ups can't read. At the cul-de-sac, the curb is a stage. You practice slow turns so tight your inside pedal scratches the ground with a delicate kiss, then wide, swoopy arcs that feel like drawing cursive with your whole body. Someone tries a track stand holding still without putting a foot down, and wobbles heroically for 2 seconds that last a year. A little kid in a helmet too big for his head rides through the middle of your circle like a monarch, and the group splits with exaggerated respect, hands to hearts, bells chiming like a coronation. He wobbles but doesn't fall, and the cheers chase him up the street like confetti. The sky's colour slides toward peach, then apricot, then something you don't have a name for. The light goes sideways and makes the chrome sparkle in little sun flares, blinking off reflectors like tiny lighthouses calling you home even though you're not ready. Moths start to show up, reckless and tender, and you duck and grin and keep going. Somewhere, a garage door rolls up and an adult shoulders a box of camping gear or finds a rake. They pause to watch the parade of you, and for a second you see yourself the way they do. Wheels blur, elbows out, a small nation of joy travelling at 12 miles an hour. You take the hill the other way now, the hard way, and discover the holy geometry of gears, how standing and rocking your weight can pry distance out of gravity, how breathing on a rhythm turns the road into steps your legs know how to climb. Near the top your friend calls, "Last push," and you all answer with a sound that isn't quite a word, a chorus made of effort and pride. Cresting feels like coming up for air. The breeze finds your shirt again and your heart, big and loud, calms itself like a drum under a steady hand. There are tokens to collect before you put the bikes away. a folded leaf that rides in your spokes like a prayer flag, a bread tie you'll use for a fix no one asked for, a lucky washer discovered by the curb that clinks in your pocket, proof that the street pays wages. Chain grease stains your fingers, black commas that punctuate everything you touch, and you rub them with a dandelion head because someone said it works, and sometimes it does. You take turns spinning each other's pedals backward just to listen to the freewheel buzz, the sound of rest that still promises movement. You try the hands-free ride again just for the sweetness of it. This time you make it past the secondless driveway, past the manhole cover with the city's name, past the shadow of the maple that splashes across the street like a lake. For a blinking, impossible moment you're a statue that floats, a flag that learned to steer itself, a note held perfectly on pitch. The wobble comes, inevitable, intimate, and you catch the bars with a little flourish that says you meant to. No one saw, and somehow everyone did. Your cheeks hurt from smiling and your legs feel carved from good wood. A breeze carries the first faint smell of dinner's finishing. Onions, sweetening in a pan, thawed pizza hitting hot stone, corn steaming in a pot. The air cools by a degree so subtle, only a kid on a bike could notice. You ride one more lap around the block for the principle of it, calling out potholes and greeting mailboxes like old friends. The curb by your house approaches, then slides under your wheel as you hop it out of habit, and you coast to the yard, letting the bike choose its resting place. The kickstand drops with a tidy click, a period at the end of a run-on sentence. You look back at the street, at the invisible lines you drew all evening, and feel that bright, settled fullness that means you did exactly what the day asked of you. The frame ticks as it cools, tiny metallic pings like a clock that only bikes can hear. You rest your palm on the seat, then the handlebar, as if saying goodnight to a friend who can't come inside. Tomorrow the card will still clap in the spokes, the bell will still be too cheerful, the crate will still rattle, and the road will still be patient. For now, you walk toward the porch with the legs that hum, aware of your height in a new way, as if the ride added an inch the measuring wall can't capture. Behind you the bike stands in the last wedge of gold, a silent animal that knows its way home in the dark if it had to. It starts with a name called into the open air, thrown like a skipping stone down the block to see how many houses it can tap. You cup your hands around your mouth and send it, drawn out, a little musical, the syllables rising at the end as if the name itself were a question. It bounces off garage doors, off the metal belly of a parked car around the corner where the lilacs huddle, and it returns to you thinner, like a memory of itself, which is how you know it reached the end of the street. A second name follows, then a third, and the neighbourhood wakes to the roll call the way a lake wakes to tossed pebbles, rings widening, overlapping, becoming something bigger than their start. A screen door answers with that familiar croak and clack, and a head leans into the rectangle of shade. "Who's that?" a voice asks, because it's part of the dance, and you call back not just your name, but the reason, as if reasons were ever necessary. "We're out." The head disappears, feet thump, the door opens fully, and a kid appears with a look that mixes hope and inevitability. He doesn't hurry, but he is fast. Laces are tied while travelling, helmets clamped on the move, a half-finished cookie negotiated mid-stride, rituals of entry. Another name streaks from a different porch, a different direction, this one delivered by a sister with the precision of a town crier. You repeat it because repetition is permission, and soon the name is no longer a name but a spell that opens a yard, a spirit, a goal. You learn to read houses by their noises. Some homes answer with a piano being closed carefully, others with the squeal of chair legs, the hushed debate of a parent deciding if homework counts as done enough. One door announces its inhabitant with the slap of a flip-flop that always loses the race with the other, a beat late but determined. Another door has a latch that sticks and requires a jolt. A shoulder thud, a muttered "come on," the triumphant burst into the blue. Even the houses that never send children contribute to the chorus. Wind chimes, a spool of hose falling off its hook, a dog collar jingling as permission is sought and granted with a tail. The roll call carries a formality older than any of you. There's the knock that means, are you allowed? 3 raps, pause, 2 more. The whistle that means the vacant lot. A warble you practice behind the shed until it stopped sounding like a kettle and started sounding like signal. The rhythmic ball bounce outside a garage that says, we're here and we're not leaving without you. Sometimes you use the phone, corded, with a twist that tangles around your finger, but mostly you prefer the sky. It's a better network, less likely to involve an adult saying, be home by, because the sky already knows when that is. Names are long tonight. They stretch into nicknames, into middle names when you're teasing, into first and last when you need urgency. You call for the older boy who has a perfect spiral in his arm and a complicated relationship with sharing. For the girl who can jump twice as high as anyone and pretends not to care. For the quiet kid who always brings a tool that saves the day. For the little brother who is not technically invited, but somehow always arrives with pockets full of useful string. Each of them appears at their own pace, wearing their evening. Grass on a sock, a smear of sauce at the corner of a mouth, hair shaped by a quick towel crown. They step into the street and the group accommodates, expanding and reweaving without fuss, the way a net accepts another knot. You don't decide what you're doing yet. The decision is communal and emerges like fog rolling in, suddenly obvious once it's there, hard to point to a beginning. Down to the lot, somebody suggests, pointing with their chin. Oh, hoop at the driveway, someone counters, resting a ball on a hip that appears to have been designed for exactly that purpose. A third kid offers a compromise that somehow includes fireflies, hide and seek, and a mystery involving the old storm drain that moans when it's lonely. There's a flurry of yeses and one sure no, and then the no erodes because being with the group is the real game, and because even a no contains secret yeses when you're outside and the air is sweet with cut grass and the future is short and certain, play until the lamps bloom. The roll call is also a census of parents. Some make a cameo on porches, arms crossed in the posture of watchfulness that's mostly decorative now. Others lean in doorways with dish towels like sashes, delivering reminders that sound like ancient proverbs. Shoes on. Street is not a bed. Watch the corner. A few lean into the script with their own language. I want to see elbows back here at the lights, says one, which you translate as full bodies home by glow. 1 block radius, says another, which you accept as the border of your country for the evening, a line you will respect with the ingenuity of smugglers, pushing right up to it and never not once past. You wave to them all with the casual diplomacy of children who know they are trusted. Neighbours become part of the roll call without being called. Mr. Patel kneeling in his garden becomes the keeper of boundaries. If he sees you sprinting past too close to the road, he will rise like a friendly statue and put his palm up without a word and you will curve. Ms. Daly with the hydrangeas becomes the arbiter of disputes. She has a bench and a voice that turns arguments into agreements by saying both of your names in a tone that makes you remember you like each other. The guy at the corner with the classic car becomes simply a landmark. You'll later tell stories in which meeting at the Camaro is a time as well as a place. When the group is large enough to call a game, you begin the ritual of choosing. Sticks are broken, one longer than the rest. A leader is appointed by virtue of having suggested it first, or by the ineffable momentum of charisma. A second leader emerges through gentle contest. Rock, paper, scissors best of 3 that stretches to 5 when the first 3 are indecisive. Someone, usually small and quick, becomes the runner whose feet will carry messages between camps when negotiation is required, about boundaries, about whether trees count as bases, about the surprising legality of an alley path only one of you knew existed. Laughter is the background hum. It keeps the gears from grinding. You notice how the roll call expands into rolls without speeches. The cautious one calculates safe routes and quietly ensures the littlest isn't left behind. The storyteller seeds the game with lore. This crack is lava because last summer, someone swore they saw a spark leap out of it. That fence can't be climbed because it belonged to a giant who retired, and you should respect elders. The rule-maker proposes, the rule-bender tests, the rule-rememberer recites, and the rule-forgetter supplies the sparks that make everything feel new again. No one gives them these jobs, the evening does. There is hospitality built into the call. When the new kid on the block appears, hesitant at the curb, 1 foot in the gutter, 1 foot on the street, you tilt the game so they can step in without noticing the pivot. You offer the easy position, the short run, the base closest to a porch light so they can keep stealing glances at the safety of home. You learn how much of their name to use by how quickly they look up when you try the first syllable. You learn what they're good at by watching their hands when they don't know they're being watched. You offer them a turn earlier than the order would dictate, and when they fumble, you say good try in a way that means we saw your courage. They stay. Of course they stay. Sometimes the roll call comes with a rebuke from the world itself. A crow complains because you've invaded its commentary perch. A bee demands the right of way above the clover patch. A cat eyes you like a judge who accepts bribes only in the form of gentle head scratches. You move, soften, adjust. A cyclist glides through and you split as if peeled by a knife, then seal back up behind them with a chorus of heys and sorries that are more greeting than apology. You're many and you're not in the way. You're the way the street chooses to spend its evening. Light slides lower and the soundscape shifts to match. The day's noises, deliveries, mowers, saws, fade to the murmurs of radio announcers calling stats none of you will repeat, but all of you will remember, to the clink of plates being set on tables, to the prelude coughs of crickets tuning. You still call names even when everyone is here, as if to keep blessing the space. You call each other by new temporary titles bestowed by the game. Seeker, Hider, First Pitch, Keeper of Chalk, Guardian of the Base that Moves. These are sashes you wear lightly and drop when they're done, then pick up others. No one owns a crown here longer than it takes to make a useful choice. The negotiations that follow would, in other contexts, require attorneys. Here they run on trust and volume. No tag when you're on the grass, unless your foot's in the street. But what about driveways? Driveways are neutral, not the broken one. The broken one is lava. So if I'm in the lava, then you're lava-proof and also a vampire. Vampires can't cross chalk. They can if someone's holding a pine cone. You laugh at the whole mess, and somehow miraculously, there is a rule at the end of it that everyone understands, precisely because it was made aloud and together. The first run under the new law feels like stepping onto a bridge you built as you were walking across it, and discovering it holds. A small fight attempts to start. It's a spark. A foot on a base arrived at the same instant as a tag. Two truths that cannot coexist. Voices rise, shoulders square. The ball is claimed by all and by none. Then the quiet kid, always listening, rarely first, says, "Redo," in a tone that asks for a future in which the evening stays whole. You consider. The leaders nod. "Redo," you agree. And it becomes a second law. When the past snarls, you replay it forward. The game flows again. The kids on the porch clap as if this were sport, which it is. It occurs to you that the roll call isn't just a summoning, it's a promise. Each name is a thread, and together they make a net that catches the evening, so it won't fall through the cracks between houses, between dinners, between the day you had and the sleep you're heading toward. You can feel the net when you run, soft give when the ground is uneven, a sense that if you trip you'll be scooped. You can hear it in the way someone calls your name differently when you've disappeared a beat too long behind the hedge. Not worried yet, just checking. The syllables tug you back toward the centre without taking your freedom. It's a good feeling. It makes you brave. At some point the list of names becomes unnecessary, because what you have is presence. The thud of your friend's shoes, the way the tall kid's laugh launches and then tumbles like a rock into a river, the squeak of the little brother's 2 new sneakers, the soft hush of the soccer ball rolling over dry grass. You could follow these sounds with your eyes closed and end up exactly where you meant to be, under the maple, on the strip of concrete that never cracks, at the edge of the lawn where clover sneaks into the turf around a utility cover like a secret. There are moments when you all go quiet at once, as if the neighbourhood pressed a finger to its lips. You're hiding or counting or simply listening because you suspect the night has something to say. In those pauses, the roll call is a different kind of list. The drone of a plane stitching the sky closed, the sigh of the sprinkler far away, the whisper of leaves confiding in each other. In those pauses you feel caught in something gentle and large, and you don't break it with a joke because even the jokester knows reverence when it falls out of the air and lands on your shoulders like a shawl. Then noise returns, of course it does, and you're back to calling, answering, bargaining, including. A cousin arrives late and slots in like a missing puzzle piece. A toddler wanders to the edge of the group and an invisible boundary forms, a protective horseshoe that turns play to pause until a parent lifts the toddler away, all those big kid eyes tracking the transfer like choreographed escorts. The roll call adapts, adds a hi to the toddler's name as if to stamp them with a welcome they won't remember but will feel anyway. When the first moth brushes your cheek and the sky drifts toward apricot, you feel the shift, the prelude to the lamps and the slow procession toward home. But you aren't there yet. There's time for one more whoop, one more chant of a name, one more gathering at the line chalked along the curb that means ready. You inhale the evening and it tastes like future nostalgia, though you don't have those words. What you have instead is the clean certainty that if you call out again, now, tomorrow, next summer, the names will rise, the doors will answer, the world will send you your people like it always has, faithful as gravity and just as invisible. The list lives in your lungs. You carry it everywhere. Chalk comes out of the coffee can like treasure. Fat sticks worn to angles, nubs saved on principle, colours with names you invent on the spot because the box is long gone, cloud blue, popsicle pink, hose water green. Someone always has a pristine white like a referee's whistle. You shake the can and it clacks like bones. The sound draws kids the way a bell draws a class, except this school is recess only and the curriculum is lines. The first square is always bigger than you remember needing. You crouch and drag a stripe across the concrete, chalk grating into powder that puffs up in a small breath against your wrist. The sidewalk has its own personality, smooth where the city poured a new slab, rough as toast where roots have nudged it crooked, and you adjust your pressure, learning the surface like a musician learns an instrument. One square becomes 2, becomes a ladder. You number each box with the swagger of a cartographer claiming land. The numbers get skinnier near the top because you guessed the spacing wrong. Someone laughs, you shrug, it's fine. The game will teach the grid what it needs to be. You look up, weigh the empty street like a carpenter eyeballing a beam and declare, hopscotch. No one argues, because the court is already speaking for you. Someone produces a marker, your smooth skipping stone, a bottle cap, a lucky washer rescued from the curb, and places it at the start like an offering. The rules arrive by mouth. 1 foot in the singles, 2 in the doubles, heel never kissing line, no touching the roof of square 4 with your scuffed toe, turn around on the block that says free, because that's the one you free-handed too big and decided to turn into a gift to future you. Do-overs happen at the speed of fairness. You stepped, did not. A little. Barely. Redo. someone says with the authority of a judge who prefers mercy, and you throw the marker again. The first hop is a test, not of balance so much as of nerve. You go light, finding that spring the day left in your ankles. 1, 2, straddle, slide, pivot and back, leaning into the wind that doesn't exist except in your head. Your arms make their own choreography, out like wings, tucked like a runner's, flapping once when the marker lands crooked, and you have to rescue it with a neat toe hook. The chalk under your soles gives just enough grit to make you trust it. The dust climbs your shins like a friendly fog. When you finish the ladder, you jump past the last square with a little flourish because endings deserve punctuation. Someone claps. It's a joke. You bow anyway. On the driveway you lay out 4 square with the confidence of a city planner. Big box, crosshair, letters in each quadrant if you're feeling official, A, B, C, D, or names if you're feeling dramatic, King, Queen, Jack, Joker. The ball has a low, rubbery thump that calls decisions out of your wrists. You stand toes behind your line and practice that flat-palmed serve that skims the concrete like a skipped stone. Rules bloom around the court like dandelions. No slams at little kids. Corners count if the dust proves it. Babies get 2 lives today. Toes on lines are lava. Cherry bombs are banned unless collectively voted in with a chant that sounds suspiciously like a spell. Someone argues for double taps. Someone else bans them with a grin and a story about a cousin who ruined a whole summer with double taps. There is a warning for holding, a crime defined entirely by how much the ball stuck to your hand when you needed it not to. Everybody sees it. Everybody forgives it once. The game rotates in a heartbeat rhythm. Serve, pop, slap, squeal. The ball slaps your palm and leaves a brief chalk print like a high five from the court. You learn to aim for the seam in the concrete that nudges the bounce weird. Physics as prankster on your side for once. The tall kid sends a clean laser that skids to your corner. You soften your hands, lift. Just enough, just right. And the ball hops like it remembered something it forgot to do. You find a groove, and the square becomes a tiny country governed by reflex and grace. Outs don't sting long because the line to get back in is its own party. Trash talk with no teeth, coaching you didn't ask for but secretly absorb. Trades for next serve. You go first if I can cherry bomb one time. No cherry bombs. Fine, a lemonade bomb. What's a lemonade bomb? You'll see. Chalk dust floats around you like the softest snow, on knuckles, knees, the backs of calves that have been tagging curb edges all evening. You wipe your brow and leave a pastel streak across your forehead that someone points at, and you decide to keep. The court grows and changes under your feet. A square cracks from a root and becomes a hazard you name, a mythology you repeat. Watch the wrinkle. Serve to the wrinkle. Wrinkle saves. The driveway's gentle slope is a bias that argues with gravity. You learn to use it like you learn to use wind. Pretend you planned it. Smile when it works, laugh when it doesn't. Sidewalk art grows at the edges between games, a flourishing margin. Someone kneels and pulls a sunset out of grey concrete, a horizon line drawn with the side of a chalk stick. Layered colours blended by the heel of a hand until the sky looks like it could warm your palms. Another kid sketches a dragon whose tail coils into a labyrinth that ends at the storm drain. Don't fall in, they say, as if you could, as if being caught by art were a real danger. You draw a map of the block because maps are spells in 2 dimensions, your house a square with a tiny porch, Ms. Daly's hydrangeas rendered as cloud puffs, the giant oak given a crown. The map is wrong, charming wrong, child true, and immediately useful. You use it to plan routes that you will ignore, because plans are doors you mostly run past. Jump ropes appear like punctuation marks, tying the chalk world together. 2 kids turn, wrist steady, rope clicking the pavement in a metronome that calibrates the evening. You chant because rhythm asks for words. Cinderella dressed in yellow, or the version that the older kids swear is cooler. With claps and stomps you attempt and botch in a way that somehow still works. You hop in, out, in again, finding the breath to sing between jumps, feeling that double-speed burn when the turners get ambitious. When you trip, the rope kisses your ankle with a sting that fades faster than pride returns. You switch to long rope so younger kids can run through, shrieking in pure propulsion, and you hold a handle for them because power feels best when you share it. Chalk becomes currency and charity both. The long, fresh sticks are gold and live in the can. The nubs, thumb size, wrapped in bits of paper to keep them from snapping, are community property, left in the shade of the curb like a lending library. You trade colours based on the scene you're building, green for a monster's scales, blue for a pond with fish that look suspiciously like check marks. A little kid points at your drawing and says, "Can I?" and you slide over, space opening as easily as a page turning. You guide their fist around the chalk like a teacher helping a pencil find letters, and the monster gains a second tail, instantly better because it wasn't yours alone. Fairness is baked into concrete. You measure disputed lines with fingers placed just so, the width of a pinky consecrated as sacred unit. When out is argued, you crouch and blow at the dust like archaeologists searching for a faint border. The group peers in and decides together, a quorum of grimy knees and bright eyes. When the sun glare blinds one side of the foursquare court, you swap ends every 5 points because justice needs shade too. When a game gets lopsided, a kid in the winning square says, "Switch teams," and no one pretends not to hear. Every so often a car glides up, slow and apologetic, and the court parts with little scoots, chalk lines shivering under tyres. You hold your breath as the right front wheel crosses the perfect 7 you drew too carefully to lose, and then it's gone, and the line remains, scuffed, dignified, a veteran of traffic. You wave the car through like officials at a parade, then flood back in, resetting balls and markers and mid-argument sentences. The asphalt is a guest room you tidy and reclaim without resentment. Heat radiates from the concrete even as the light softens, making your bare feet, or sock feet against 15 separate warnings, feel toasted. Ants hurry along the seam between slabs, ignoring your civilization entirely. You build them a little bridge of chalk dust because it seems the polite thing to do. In the grass, clover dusts your ankles, a bee patrols and you give it space, adding a chalk flower beside your court like a tip to a busy worker. The can of chalk empties in stages. The once grand sticks become half moons, then nubs, then the pure pigment under your fingernails that you'll discover at bath time and smile about in the mirror. Someone mentions rain, a threat and a promise. Rain is the judge that resets everything, the equalizer that turns masterpieces back into blank possibility. You imagine waking to washed sidewalks, colours ghosting into the gutter like candy melting, and there's a private ache in the idea that what you draw tonight will be gone tomorrow. The ache is sweet. Impermanence tastes like popsicles. The smallest kid, brave from a good hopscotch run, asks to serve in 4 square. You hand over the ball solemnly, the way a crown travels. Their first serve dribbles into their own square and you all shout, "Redo!" without thinking, a chorus that lifts the ball and the kid both. The second serve clears the crosshair and catches the corner of your square with the most perfect geometry you've seen all evening. You let it drop, you're out. You bow to the monarch of the moment. There's a flutter you don't name, the pride of making room, the joy of being surprised by someone smaller than you. The chalk world teaches that too. As the sun tips, chalk transforms again, from lines into lanterns. The colours seem to glow from within, the blues deeper, the oranges warmer, the whites turning pearly. Your hopscotch numbers look like constellations laid on the ground, a sky you can step through without falling. You do one last run just to feel the ladder under your feet in dimmer light, your body remembering distances better than your eyes. The marker skitters, pauses, behaves. You land the turn with a tiny heel spin that you'll try to repeat forever and never quite replicate. That's fine. Perfection is boring. You prefer the kind that happens once and makes your heart trip. On the curb, the can is almost empty. You tip it, pick out the last usable pieces, 2 purples, a white, a stubborn sliver of yellow that will slice your fingertip if you're not careful, and you draw a border around the court, a low wall of colour that says ours without locking anyone out. Inside the wall, you write a word you don't usually write, because words feel heavy on concrete. Home. Someone adds an exclamation point huge and crooked. Someone else draws a tiny arrow that points toward a front door. You all nod, satisfied, as if you've signed a contract with the evening. Somewhere down the block, a ball bounces that isn't yours. A call rises for a game you might join next. A screen door sings its hinge song, and the air cools by a thin layer you can feel on your chalky skin. You blow the dust from your hands, and it hangs for a breath before vanishing into the softening light. The courts will wait, until shoes, wheels, and weather erase them, until you redraw them again, with new rules, new numbers, new jokes. You step back, take in the squares and lines and small bright worlds you made out of nothing, and you feel taller than a minute ago, not because you grew, but because the ground did. Someone calls the question that isn't really a question game, and the evening answers yes by tipping the light to honey. You can feel it on your arms, a warm glaze that turns freckles into star maps and makes the dust in the air look like gold shaved thin. A base is chosen with ceremony that manages to be both chaotic and fair. The telephone pole that leaks sap. The mailbox with its dignified dent. The oak whose bark is a library of carvings from kids who were you and aren't anymore. Palms slap wood. Feet scuff a circle into the dirt. Jail? Jail. Saves. Saves. Someone runs a finger across the boundary etched earlier in chalk and grass and agreement. The rules bloom like evening primrose, fast, surprising, absolutely expected. No hopping fences, no garages. The alley counts, but only to the first trash can. No, the second. Fine, the first and a half. The argument becomes a laugh because the light is pretty and the game is bigger than lines. A seeker steps forward, caught by a gravity that is more about who volunteered last time than who wants it now. They press their forehead to the tree, cheek to bark, as if taking its temperature. Sap smells like vanilla and sebum. Their hands slay against the trunk the way swimmers press palms to the pool wall before a race. Heads down, no peeking, someone says, invoking the only commandment that matters. The seeker nods solemnly, and then cheats a sliver, because everyone cheats a sliver. And honor is measured not by perfection, but by the speed with which you say, "Fine, starting over." They begin to count in a voice that tries not to be a song and fails. 1, 2, 3, the numbers drag and then sprint. The cadence negotiated in real time by the chorus of "too fast" and "come on" and "not fair" and "let them." You scatter before 10, your body knows the map before your mind chooses. Past the driveway that is neutral ground until it isn't, over the curb that flexes under your foot like a diving board, into the yard that feels like an open hand offering you to the bushes. The lilac hedge is the first thought and the wrong one. Too obvious, too full of you from a dozen other evenings. You glance at it anyway because a comfort has a smell. Warm, green, powdery floral, a hint of wet soil cooling under the day's heat. You pivot at the last second, sudden and pleased with your own cunning, and slip toward the side of the house where the hose leaves a dark comet tail across the concrete. Your breath already wants to be loud with running. You order it quiet with a hand over your mouth, as if you could press silence into your own lungs like a stamp. You understand suddenly the theology of shadows. In this hour they are wide and kind, draped like the hems of long skirts over lawn and sidewalk. You step inside one and feel smaller, not just hidden, but folded. The light has a direction, and so do you now. You drop to your knees behind the shrubs that are equal parts leaves and spider architecture, and a twig chooses that moment to introduce itself to your knee. The sting is sharp, clean, instructive. You don't move. A bead of sap from the hedge logs itself onto your forearm like a bead of amber catching a very small child. An ant explores your shoe, and you wish it Godspeed in internally shouted words that you hope it can hear. 11, 12, 13, the counting pulls at your ribs like a rope. Around you the world becomes a catalogue of tiny noises you hadn't noticed all day. A sprinkler's teeth chatter as it sweeps a yard you did not choose. The metal screen on a storm drain hums when a slow car grumbles over it. A dog in the next block announces that the neighbour's cat is living wrong. Closer, the whisper of a shirt against bark as someone makes your mistake with the lilac. The whisper of grass as someone corrects it and slides longer than they meant to. The deliberate hush of your friend who hides the way a fox is a rumour. 20. The number lands like a gavel. Ready or not, here I come. 5 syllables roll down the street like a rubber ball escaping a kid's hand. Your shoulders lift and stay lifted. The seeker unwinds from the tree and the game takes its first breath. You fix your gaze on a single leaf so you don't look like a full person to the world. You practice the invisibility you've always suspected you could do if you just focused hard enough. Your heartbeat becomes a bass drum you're worried will give you away. It won't. The seeker is not a bat. The seeker is a person. The seeker is your friend, which makes them both more and less dangerous. They loop the base once in a circle of ritual, hands tracing the bark as if collecting strength, and then they turn outward with eyes that have learned to separate shadow from shape. Their mouth is a line of concentration. Their eyebrows are a measuring tool. The first sweep is wide, theatrical. Porch, steps, hedge, mailbox, car under its cover, like a ghost taking a nap. The second sweep is practical and small. They look where they can touch. Under the porch where the air smells like cool dirt and the cat's last argument. Between the trash cans where the lid rattles would tell on anyone dumb enough to breathe. Behind the low wall where someone once crouched so long their feet fell asleep and the story of their heroic tingling became part of neighbourhood lore. A moth crosses in front of their face and they flinch, because even hunters are people. The moth doesn't apologise. You hear the first sprint, the way shoes talk to sidewalk when they go from still to running. The seeker heard the same thing. They whip toward it, and you feel that quick, petty joy that comes from somebody else being more obvious than you. The footsteps cut left. The seeker cuts left. The game writes its first line in the dust. You take this chance to alter your shape, kneel to crouch, crouch to fold, elbow to knee, chin to wrist. The shrub's leaves tickle your jaw. You taste green, you taste a little dirt. There's a web strand on your ear that feels like a violin string, if a violin string were made by a patient artist who has never met you. At base, the seeker slaps bark and calls a name in a triumphant voice, the call and response of law being enacted. Base, I see. The name unspools, precise, inarguable. Across the lawn an outraged laughed no way, followed by the ritual incantations. You peeked. Did not. You totally looked. Only at the tree. Start over? A pause, the social physics of fairness working the equation out. Then, start over, not the game, just the count for that one. The seeker presses forehead to bark again, and you want to kiss them on the cheek when this is all over for remembering what the game is about. There is rescue in this version. Jail is the bottom step of the porch, and the top step too if you're generous, which tonight you are. Prisoners sit with knees up, elbows around them, narrating their own capture in tones that make it heroic. The Seeker loves jail because it makes the game small. You love saves because they make it big. To save a friend, you must leave your hideout for a line that takes you through open light, timed like a heist. 2 houses down, someone darts and slaps a knee, and the whole group of seated prisoners becomes confetti, screaming and scattering as if the porch had disagreed with gravity. The Seeker spins and gives chase, and you feel that spinning in your teeth, as if you were a compass needle jerking toward north. You consider a move. The base is a diagonal dash through a yard that belongs to people who like kids but not their trampled petunias. You can make it if the dog barks at the right second, if the sprinkler coughs on cue, if the sun slides behind a cloud there are no clouds, or if a plane passes too high to help you. You decide to wait because patience is a kind of daring too. You think of yourself as a shadow with a pulse. You name every sound again to keep from talking out loud. Fence creak, backdoor click, laugh with hand over mouth, bicycle freewheel humming because someone is riding slow to watch the hunt. Baseball announcer describing a bunt like it will change history. A bee samples the air around your sock and you hold so still it thinks you are sculpture. The Seeker shifts tactics. They stop hunting the big shapes and begin to search edges, under eaves where swallows have pencil nests, the wedge between air conditioner and house, the shallow cave under the juniper that everyone forgets until they don't. They crouch and peer under the neighbour's car, and the car returns them a warped version of themselves. Long, funny, alien. They check the hollow of the oak where a knot hole like a coin slot swallows the last light. The game becomes a study of backs, straight backs moving like ideas, bent backs shaped like questions, back of heads that tell you everything about a person when faces would be too generous. You shift again, minute, fingertip by fingertip. On your palm, a buried pebble finds a nerve you didn't know you owned. The pressure has the precision of a dentist. You accept the cost because your breath is steady now, and the world has shrunk to a perfect circle of knowing. A hair slides across your nose. Your whole willpower is a hand knot scratching. There is an extra heartbeat in your throat. You decide to count 2 sprinkler ticks for every breath in, 3 for every breath out. The pattern quiets the voice in your head that suggests your shoelace is a neon sign. Caught footsteps stop just on the other side of your shrub. You think this is the secret heart of being alive, not being seen, not yet. The Seeker's shoes, the black ones with the single white stripe, line up with the seam in the sidewalk where you once buried a penny as a wish to the city. You can tell from the angle of the toes that they're listening, not looking. A leaf on your shoulder says now by trembling, and you slap it still with 2 fingers slow enough to shame a clock. The Seeker leans in. You smell the soap their mum buys by the gallon, and the sweat that belongs to the kind of person who runs even when they aren't being chased. Their hand moves. Yours do not. Somewhere far away and right next to you, someone giggles. The Seeker pivots toward the sound, a sunflower turning toward a different sun, and you live. You watch 2 captures happen in quick collage. A leg betrayed by a sprinkler's glitter, a shoe heel that couldn't help poking out from behind the trash bins like a tongue. Base. I see the names ring again, and you store the mistakes with the kindness of thieves who plan to use them later. Jail grows a population and a personality, calling strategies you pretend not to hear. You mouth shh toward the porch, and the porch, to its credit, shushes itself. A rescuer springs like a sentence that doesn't need conjunctions. Run, slap, scatter, breathe. The Seeker barks a name and gets it almost right, and you watch 2 kids argue the difference between Ian and Ian hiding like it matters to the Constitution. In this country it does. Golden hour tips toward amber. The grass throws long stripes across the street that you must not cross because they are lava now, and everyone says so without saying it. The moth population increases by 3,000%, and you begin to believe in fairies. Not the glitter kind, the dusty winged kind that bump your cheeks like question marks. The telephone wires hum a note you decide is B flat. A bat scribbles in the high blue like a pencil, trying to finish before the teacher takes the paper. You make a decision. You are not a statue, you are a comet. You unwedge, a careful reverse of the origami that put you here, and become a lope held low, spine bent, arms tucked. The world turns to a field of possible alarms: loose board, squeaky gate hinge, the treacherous crinkle of a dry leaf that has been waiting all day for this betrayal. You ghost along the side of the house, the stucco brushing your shoulder like advice. The base is visible now, a vertical promise in silhouette, hand-marked with sap scars and initials. The seeker is mid-chase, pulled toward a decoy sprint staged by the kid who understands drama. You aim for the shadow seam, where the sidewalk meets the lawn, a strip of safety drawn by light itself. You are halfway when the quiet kid, the one who is always kin to foxes, catches your eye from under the low juniper and lifts 2 fingers off the grass. Go. It's a blessing and a dare. You accept. Your feet forget to make sound. Your arms remember how to make you small. You pass within a yard of the seeker and feel the electricity of their noticing almost ignite. A moth kisses your lip just then, and for once you're grateful for the soft interference of night. 2 more strides. 1, you slap the base with a flat palm that stings and sings and shouts your name up the tree. Safe! You yell, unwilling to pretend that the law of contact isn't the best law ever written. The seeker spins, too late, smiling despite themselves, because a hunt that ends at a base keeps hunters honest. You lean there, panting, cheek pressed to bark like a phone, listening to the tree's slow, tree-thought heartbeat. The sap smudges your temple, a sticky blessing you carry the rest of the night. Above you, the first cricket decides it's time to be obvious. On the porch, jail empties again in a jailbreak that is pure theatre. High knees, silent screams, the kind of joy that makes even being tagged into a dignified plot twist. The seeker jogs back, taps base because that's the rhythm, always return, always begin at the beginning, and chooses a new vector, reading the landscape like a detective who loves the suspects. "Ollie, ollie, oxen, free," a small voice tries, hoping to skip to mercy. Not yet. The game has a few more beats to play. You volunteer yourself as satellite now, leaving base to draw the seeker away from where the little kids have crammed themselves under a lawn chair in a formation that defies comfort. You show a shoulder, then vanish behind a parked bike. You let the seeker hear your breath, then swap it for the winds. You are decoy and you are delighted. The seeker faints, you faint back, the evening laughs out loud in the high branches. At last, inevitability arrives dressed as the sun, dropping into a place it knows, and a parent's voice calling a first name that sounds like a melody written with a wooden spoon on the rim of a pot. The seeker slaps the base and declares truce. That wonderful amnesty where all are invited back to personhood. "Ollie, ollie, oxen free," they announce with full lungs, and every hidden kid becomes visible again, unfolding from hedges, rolling out from under porches, standing up and brushing grass off shins, striped with green. The group reforms like magnets, remembering what they're for. You walk in, grinning, hair full of powdered leaf, knee wearing the badge of the earlier twig. Heart huge and contraband with the secret you held. You can disappear and then return, and both things are allowed. The light settles into peach and then into something that doesn't have a fruit word. You can see your breath a little, not because it's cold, but because the evening has made air visible out of kindness. The tree holds your handprint in sap for a minute longer, then takes it into itself for tomorrow. Someone suggests one more round, fast. Someone else says popsicles. Somewhere between those two truths, the first lamp down the block considers its work and decides soon. Not yet. You have time to shake out your legs, to trade "you almost got me" stories for "I almost got you" stories, to promise to try the juniper next time, to swear you never peeked, to carry all of it into the next game as if a pocket could hold a whole hour of gold. It happens like a bell rung in a language everyone knows. A door opens and a voice floats out, "Popsicles!" or "Snack time!" or "Who wants watermelon?" And these games skid to a pause as clean and inevitable as low tide. You don't call time out, the evening calls it for you. Sticks clatter onto porches, bikes lean themselves against railings like obedient animals, and the whole street inhales all at once because sugar is a compass that points home. You follow your nose and the promise of cold. The kitchen is a planet with its own weather. Fan ticking, radio murmuring, the soft clink of spoons against glass. Air conditioning, if you have it, hits your face like a polite wall. If you don't, the shade and the linoleum still feel like mercy. The floor is a record of the day, a constellation of grass clippings, a droplet of tomato juice by the cutting board, a sneaker print you'll wipe later. A parent moves through the room with a choreography older than you. Fridge open, drawer out, cabinet knock, a wrist flick that sends water arcing from a rinsed bowl. They give you the look that says, hands, and you step to the sink because you know the rules of this temple. Warm water, a pump of soap that smells like lemon pretending to be lemon, the satisfying grey river that swirls away your chalk, your dirt, your victories. You hold your hands under the stream a beat too long, sleepy with the sensation of becoming clean. The freezer opens the way a treasure chest opens in stories. Breath of frost, light inside. Boxes whisper against boxes, crinkly wrappers like paper birds. Choices reveal themselves as if they have been there all day waiting for this second. A rainbow of ice sticks lined up like stained glass windows. Chocolate-dipped bars that feel fancy. Twin pops you can snap in half with a satisfying crack that rings like a little bell. Cups with the wooden spoons that taste a tiny bit like the wood itself. A voice behind you negotiates on behalf of siblings. He gets grape this time. I had red yesterday. And someone swears solemnly to remember the inverse tomorrow. You pick yours by colour, by mood, by destiny. Orange because the light outside is orange. Blue because you want your tongue to look like a summer secret. Lime because you can already taste the tiny bite in the sweet. You step back into the evening with a fistful of cold and the world steps closer to you because you're carrying a small son. Wrappers tear open like presents. A tab refuses, then gives. The first lick is always too fast, you'll learn. And the cold shoots up behind your eyes like a comet. You laugh at your own brain freeze and press your tongue to the roof of your mouth because someone once said it helps and it does. Maybe because belief is medicine. The syrup hits your taste buds in a way nothing else does. Sharp and friendly, sugar-forward, fruit-adjacent. It paints your lips and you don't bother to check a mirror, because your friends are mirrors and they will tell you your mouth is red, and you will say proud, I know. On porches and stoops, snack economies blossom. You trade a bite for a sip, a lick for a handful of pretzels, an end piece for a corner of someone's cookie, accepting that bites are always bigger when you're sharing. A bowl of watermelon circulates, the wedges are cold enough to make your front teeth ache, and the juice runs down your wrists to your elbows and becomes a sticky bracelet that declares your membership in summer. You spit seeds into the grass with sniper seriousness, or shove them into a neat pile on a napkin that turns translucent at the edges. Someone's mum offers a sprinkle of salt and you make a skeptical face that turns into an impressed one when the sweetness brightens like a light switched on. Another household brings out orange slices and you bite into them like athletes in halftime footage. The peel flipping inside out around your grin. Paper cups appear in a line beading with condensation, and lemonade arrives like something sung into existence. It is the exact right temperature where ice is an ingredient and not an intruder. You hold the cup with both hands because it's substantial and it hums with cold against your palms. The sugar crystals haven't entirely dissolved and you love them for their stubbornness. One rides your tongue like a little boat. The pulp is proof that a real lemon once existed and gave you this. Sometimes it's not lemonade, sometimes it's bright red drink mixed from a packet, a colour not found in nature that still somehow tastes like berries. You don't care what it's called. You call it good, and your mouth agrees in a ring it leaves on the rim of the cup. Down the block, the ice cream truck tries to steal the scene with its looping song, notes that are both joy and menace if you've heard them too many times in one day. Head swivel, calculations begin. Do you have dollars? Do you have quarters? Does your friend have one, and will they front you until you raid the change jar of mysterious coins from laundromat kingdoms? You form a fast coalition and jog, then slow because running next to the truck feels like admitting defeat. The menu is a gallery of possibilities. Cartoon faces with gumball eyes that will migrate toward your chin as they melt. Rocket pops that promise patriotism and deliver sugar. Cones crowned with nuts pressed into chocolate that will fall into your lap exactly once. You choose with a mathematical formula that includes heat, hype, and the rate at which you need your hands free again. While you wait for the truck to make change, you press your popsicle against your wrist, leaving a cold kiss that prints and fades, prints and fades. Back on the steps, wrappers become flags stuffed into pockets until they're forgotten, then rediscovered in the wash as evidence of a life correctly lived. Wooden sticks stack into little fences. The dog performs their role perfectly. Eyes large, ears impossible, patience rich with strategy. You negotiate with the dog the way diplomats negotiate borders. They can have a lick, but only of air next to the treat. They accept the terms and lick exactly the sugar they wanted all along when you laugh. A cat goes by with a disdain for all of it so pure you almost want to applaud. Napkins and dish towels do their sloppy best. A parent wipes a chin with a thumb in a gesture that never ages and always embarrasses you by one molecule. Another parent steps into the yard with a tray held the way a waiter holds a miracle. Crackers, cubes of cheese sweating gently in the heat, carrot sticks that crunch loud and close your ears for a second. Protein, they announce like a magician revealing the final card. You take 3 pieces because the evening has taught you about reserves. Someone produces pickles like a plot twist. You bite, and the brine clears a stripe through the sugar, so you can taste again with new eyes. Stories gather as fast as crumbs. Someone almost did a wheelie for the record books. Someone else formed an alliance in hide and seek that evaporated at the base with honourable treachery. Voices layer, interrupt, braid. A sibling retells the same 3 minutes with edits each time. More dramatic bush, more daring jump, larger imaginary dog. You practice the art of aha while licking the thin vein of melted pop that escapes down your pointer finger toward the palm. There is a grace in being still on the porch, legs kicked out, one ankle over the other, watching the street stretch and yawn while your heart rate steps down a staircase you can't see. Inside the house, a timer dings and a pan is lifted with oven mitts that look like animals. The smell of something baked, cookies, brownies, a sheet cake with a frosting that will crust if you wait long enough, rolls to the door and sits beside you like a friendly boulder. It almost changes the plan. Almost. You take one, blow on it like you're taming fire, and accept that a crumb will live in your shirt until bedtime. Sugar granules scritch against your teeth and you think, with the dim wisdom of a happy animal, that this is the exact right amount of everything. The pause reveals things you missed at speed, the way the sun turns the neighbour's window into a gold tile, a tiny crack in the step shaped like a state you can't name, the mystery of ants organising traffic in 2 opposite directions with no collisions, a dragonfly stitching a seam between yards, a parent in another doorway, leaning on the jamb, smiling into the middle distance where your games live, like weather patterns they can forecast but never control. Then the snack becomes a ritual of repair. Bandage boxes appear. Someone finally attends to the splinter they pretended not to feel, and tweezers glint like a knight's small sword. You hold your friend's wrist while the parent works, the grip firm enough to be felt, gentle enough to be brave. There's the sting, and then there's the little sigh when the wood gives up its hold. a dab of something that smells like a hospital and victory, a bandage printed with astronauts, and the day continues with a new story to tell. It was in there like an inch. It was a flake. It was basically a tree. Ice sticks reach their thinnest selves, a sliver on a stick, the delicate geometry that demands attention. You chase the last sweetness with care and a little ceremony, folding the softening sides, convincing them to become a final bite without falling. Someone fails and catches the drop in their palm. Triumphant, sticky, perfect. Sticks get snapped in half for the hell of it. The wood sighs. A parent moves through with a small trash bag, and you feed it with the evidence of joy. Wrappers, napkins, a paper cup collapsed like a tent, a rind chewed thin. The kitchen will see you again at bedtime. For now, the threshold is a gate, and you're passing through it back into the wild. Your hands, despite washing, are marked again. Pink trace from a popsicle's ambition, an orange crescent by your thumb that looks like a moon. You run them under the hose in the yard just because water is a toy. The hose coughs first, then gives you a drink in that specific metallic way that only hose water has, cold and faintly like pennies and rain. You bend the rubber to stop the flow and release it so it jumps. You put your thumb over the end to make a spray fan that rainbow glitters in the low sun and baptizes your shins. Someone shrieks and then laughs because the air is warm and the water is to dare you accept gladly. The street, paused, begins to unpause. A ball is nudged with a toe and rolls as if remembering its duty. Bikes creak, stretching like big cats, ready to prowl again. You feel the sugar settle in your bones, not as a buzz, but as a glow, fuel more than fire. The first moths of the evening wander in from wherever moths come from. You wave them away with the back of your hand like benign spirits. A parent says, "Plates inside," and you carry the stack in, the weight just enough to make your forearms feel useful. You step off the porch and everything is slightly re-enchanted. The lines of hopscotch seem brighter in the softer light. The 4-square court looks like an invitation written in sidewalk cursive. Voices rejoin the air in the register of games, not chores. Counting, teasing, inventing. Someone suggests teams and someone else suggests no teams. And the third idea, the real one, blooming in the middle like it always does. Let's do both. You take your place where the evening needs you. A sugar-ringed, water-splashed, lemon-scented piece of the whole, and the pause closes with a click you can almost hear. From the far end of the block, a single lamp raises its head and considers the sky. Not yet, it decides. There is still time for another race, another serve, another hiding place that feels like magic because you'll share it with a friend. You look down at your hands, cleanish, sticky in a constellation you couldn't draw twice. And you grin because this is what intermissions are for, to taste the day, to tell it thank you, and to walk back into the play with your lines learned by heart. It starts as a rumour at the edge of your vision, the poles standing like tall, patient sentries, their glass hats catching the last light. Somebody always notices first. They're gonna turn on, they say with the authority of a weather forecaster who can smell rain in the heat. Every kid does a tiny mental math. One more round, one last serve, a single sprint, a final hide so good it keeps singing in your head all the way through bath time. The air itself seems to lean forward, waiting for the click. Twilight lays a soft hand over the block. Colours step down a notch, edges blur. The chalk you painted across the world deepens as if lit from underneath by memory. Crickets tune up. 1,000 tiny violins finding the same note. Someone's radio slips from the background. An announcer calm as a pond. A slow song that makes windows breathe. The sky is everything at once. Peach by the roofs, lavender above the trees, deepening blue where bats start to write their short, important sentences. A hush ripples through the games. Not silence, just a lowering. The way a classroom grows quiet when a good story begins. Even the ball behaves, rolling to a stop right at the toe of your shoe. You set your palm on the streetlight's pole like a pledge, feeling the day's warmth still held in the metal, the faint hum of current sleeping in the wires. Moths audition for the role of first audience, looping in loose figure eights, reckless as paper airplanes thrown by the sky. Then, there it is, a tiny click you feel more than hear, a filament flicker like a blink, and the globe blooms to life, not harsh, not stern, but a pooled glow that makes a low lake of light in the road. It spreads across the asphalt like milk poured into tea, softening everything it touches. The whole block exhales. Oh, and in that oh is a contract older than you. Start heading home. No one rushes. The glow doesn't scold, it invites. It makes a stage out of the curb and turns your friends into actors with gentle spotlights, eyes shining, hair outlined in halos. Shadows grow long and cooperative, hand puppets your legs make without trying. Every porch inherits a warm oval, a welcome mat made of brightness. The bugs go wild, dizzy pilgrims in a circular heaven. You spin under the lamp to see your shadow flare and shrink like a heartbeat on the ground. Goodnights start in fragments. Tomorrow, pitched like hope. Same time, as if time were yours to schedule. Bring the card for the spokes. I'm practicing the no hands. We'll fix the net. Plan stack like building blocks, wobbly and perfect. A younger kid lifts their arms and a bigger kid automatically takes their hands over the gutter river. Someone returns a borrowed thing, the best treasure of the evening, pressed into a palm with ceremony. The lucky washer, the smooth stone, the red rubber ball. Don't forget. I won't. You won't. Bikes put themselves away with little metal sighs. Kickstands click down like punctuation. Helmets are unbuckled one-handed. Hair springs free and smells like wind. Chalk-dusted knees glow pale in the lamplight. Constellations across skin. You trace a hopscotch number with your toe for no reason beyond love. The court will still be there in the morning unless it rains. And if it rains, the court will be there in your wrists, ready to redraw itself. A parent voices the clock without numbers. Let's start wrapping up. The phrase floats from porch to porch, translated into every family's language. 2 more minutes, first warning, last run, one final toss. You squeeze one last perfect thing into the space between light and night. A throw that slaps a palm just right, a skip that lands clean, a race that ends in a tie because laughter makes the tape break for both of you at once. Moths thrum the lampshade, tiny fists on a bell jar, and you hold one in the light of your hands for a second, safe and soft before letting it go. The first lamp woke the block, the second down at the far corner makes it official. One by one, the sentries open their eyes, drawing a necklace through the neighbourhood, pearls of glow strung along the street. You read the strand like a map, the path home traced in warm circles. For a moment you want to keep the game going inside one pool of light. Surely rules are different here on this lit island. But you know the real rule, the walk back is part of the game. It's the credits that make the movie linger. You drift toward your porch in a little flotilla, the group breaking and merging, splitting for doorways like streams parting around stones. The quiet that comes now is a comfortable sweater. Low voices, sneakers making sticky sounds on warm pavement. The hush of sprinklers finishing their shift. You carry the day not in a bag but in your body. Thighs pleasantly heavy, palms slightly sticky. A skinned knee singing a thin high note under the orchestra of crickets. Someone still has a popsicle stick and keeps snapping it, head cocked to hear the miniature crack. Someone else holds a jar with 2 blinking fireflies, lanterns captured from the air, promising softly to let them go after just one more look. The walk is slower than in daylight, not because you're tired, though you are, but because everything is worth seeing twice. The number on the curb shines like a secret code. The hydrangeas look moon-built. Blue deeper, leaves glossy with lamp glow. The dent in the mailbox has a shadow now that makes it heroic, like a scar. You greet familiar cracks like old friends. There's the wrinkle in the concrete that saved your serve. There's the shallow dip where rain makes a dangerous lake for ants. There's the manhole cover you trace with your shoe, the city's name catching light around the edge like a crown. Someone tosses you a final question, light as a firefly. What was the best part? A dozen answers flicker in your head. The moment you were invisible under the shrubs, the lane of sprinkler diamonds you split with your bike, the serve that kissed the corner and slid away like a sly fish, the rescue at the base that made your chest spark. You pick one, then change it, then say all of it, which is the truest answer any night ever wants. Porches bloom with silhouettes. Parents lean on doorframes, faces soft with the kind of tired that is relief. A porch light clicks on and adds its square of brightness to the lamp puddles on the street. Shoes by the mat. Helmets inside. Brush off before you come in, please. You give yourself a wiggle and a pat down. Dust lifts in a tiny galaxy that the light catches for a second and then swallows. Someone's mum hands out damp washcloths like passports back into the house world. You swipe your face, your neck, the badge on your knee, and the cloth turns the colour of chalk clouds. The older kids dawdle at the bottom step, legs long, backs to the rail, talking in a lower register, music you'll someday understand. You hang there for one borrowed minute, catching the rhythm of it, the way their laughter sits lower in their throats, how they nod instead of bounce. The streetlight makes them look like characters in a show you aren't old enough to watch and they aren't quite old enough to star in. You memorize it anyway. At your own porch, the screen door has that evening creak that means bath and pajamas, and a fan carving the air into sleep. You pause before you go in because pausing is a way of drinking something. The lamp throws your shadow up the steps, longer than you are, longer than you will be for a while. You raise your arms and your shadow reaches the ceiling, where the moths are exploring. You bring your arms down slow like a conductor ending the song. The night nods. Good show. Inside, voices muffle, water runs. The clink of a glass meets ice like a tiny bell. You peel your socks and draw lightning bolts in the clean dust on your ankles with a fingertip. You smell like cut grass and hose, and a little like dog from where the neighbour's beagle leaned against you during the snack intermission. Your pockets release their treasury onto the kitchen counter. The bottle cap, the lucky washer, the card from your spokes, a crumb of chalk the size of a promise. A parent gathers the artefacts with a smile that says they are both sacred and in need of a plate so they don't roll away. But your knight has one last step outside. You set down whatever you're carrying, turn and slip back out for the brief, sanctioned goodbye. The porch-to-porch wave. Across the street your friends are squares of light with moving silhouettes, each a silent film you've already seen but love again. The dance of finding pajamas. The bow of a parent's head as they inspect a new scrape, the solemn ritual of a book chosen, the puppet show of a toothbrush. Someone peeks out and gives you the two-finger salute you copied from passing drivers. You return it, exaggerated, and you both grin, because private signals are the currency of being a kid. You release the fireflies if you have them, unscrew the lid, lift it like a blessing, watch the tiny lanterns rise, pause, blink, then decide on directions you can't predict. They look for a split second like the streetlight sparks escaping to the trees. You whisper thank you to the day, to the bugs, to the pole, to the game, to the unfair rule that turned out to be fun anyway. The night accepts tips. When you finally let the screen door catch behind you, the lamp pools remain, quiet tides lapping at the curb. Somewhere down the block a late straggler jogs, shoelace tails flapping, and a parent's voice floats warm and amused. Let's go. The neighbourhood nods back to itself, something old and good settling into place. You climb the stairs with the legs that feel earned. pass through the square of light that has been your doorway since you could walk, and the last thing you see before the house closes around you is your street, stitched by lamps, keeping your secrets with a glow that says, tomorrow, same time, bring your whole self. The porch is an in-between place, neither inside nor all the way out, a soft border where the night stops by to chat before it fully settles in. You climb the steps and feel the day leaving your shoes, grain by grain. Wood holds the sun it collected, warm against your legs as you sit. The air has changed its mind, cool from the grass, warm from the street, a ribbon of each sliding past your skin. Somewhere a neighbour closes a window with that familiar wooden hush. Somewhere else, a screen door bumps and then bumps again because it never latches on the first try. You pull your knees to your chest and rest your chin on the rail. The lamplight turns the porch posts into pale tree trunks and paints rectangles on the floorboards, little islands of evening you can step between if you want to pretend the shadows are rivers. The world has turned the volume down to the exact right number. You still hear everything, but nothing asks for answers. Your own house breathes behind you, plates stacking, a pot soaking, someone laughing at a small joke. A fan chops the air into steady chunks. The dog does a last inspection of the yard and reports back with a single contented huff. Then the small lanterns arrive. They drift out of the grass like thoughts, blinking on and off with that patient rhythm that says, I'm here, I'm not, I'm here. You hold your breath to see if you can predict the next flash. You can't, and it's better that way. One floats up to eye level and hovers in front of you like a polite alien. You make a cup of your hands and it wanders through the shape of your fingers, lighting your skin from the inside so the lines look like secret roads. For a second your hands are a tiny city, seen at night from above. Then the visitor decides on a different block and you open your palms and let the traffic flow. Down the street, friends settle onto their own porches, framed in lamplight, a silhouette of someone hugging their legs the way you are. A pair of feet propped on a railing, crossed at the ankles, an older sibling leaning back on their elbows, looking up like the sky is telling them something important. You trade waves across the dark and they feel bigger than daytime hellos, quiet flags that say we were out there together, and now we're safe at home. You invent a code with your neighbour, 2 fingers meaning great serve, 3 meaning tomorrow, and they answer with a lazy salute that means obviously. A jar sits beside you on the step. You never keep the fireflies for long, just long enough to admire their glow pooled in glass, like captured stars that don't mind the trick because you always unscrew the lid. Someone shows you how to poke air holes with a nail, and you do it carefully, then change your mind and spin the lid loose, counting to 10 before lifting it. The little lights drift up and out, 2, 5, 7, each blinking a different story. You point one out to the person next to you. Look, that one's got a slow blink like it's thinking, and they nod as if they know it personally. Maybe they do. The night makes you feel that connected. Across the street, a radio plays a song older than you, all honeyed guitar and low harmonies. The notes wander across the lawns, take the steps, and sit down beside you like uninvited but welcome company. You start to hum without thinking, the way you sometimes hum when you find a flat stone before a pond. Humming makes a small cave in your chest where the day can rest. 2 porches down, someone claps twice in rhythm and the song changes shape. A neighbourhood remix. A moth bumbles the porch light and your parent flicks it off, then on, as if lowering a stage dimmer. The moth keeps trying the same impossible window, which is both funny and a tiny lesson you promise to remember. Your knee wears the shiny patch of a new scab, and you keep touching its edge, proud. It itches the heroic itch that says you did summer right. A parent steps out and hands you a glass with ice. The cubes clink, and the sound drops straight into your bones. Condensation makes a cool circle on the rail, a temporary moon. You trace your name through the wet with a fingertip and then erase it with your palm just to feel the smooth board again. the neighbour's cat appears, a soft private citizen of the night, and poses as if the world were a camera. You greet it and it offers you its tail in greeting back, which is the cat version of a handshake with a flourish. One by one, the porch conversations tilt toward quiet. You and yours compare favourite moments like baseball cards. They counter with theirs. You realise that each of you lived the same evening in a different way. You, a secret under bushes. Them, a streak of speed on a bike. Someone else, a first brave serve that finally landed. The porch holds all of it without sorting, the way a pocket holds both change and a lucky rock. The fireflies keep time for stories, blinking punctuation marks in the air. A small breeze moves through the leaves and they clap softly for the day. When you stand to stretch, your legs have that pleasant heaviness that says the ground was your friend. Somewhere, a late kid jogs home under the necklace of streetlights, hair damp with a hose water, a grin still stuck to their face. Night, they call to the block, not to anyone in particular, and from a few porches you hear it returned, a scattered chorus. Night! The word floats up and perches on a branch, satisfied. You scratch your ankle and find a faint line of chalk dust hidden in your sock. You rub it away and it lifts like fog, like breath on a cold morning you haven't met yet. Inside, the house is a hush with edges. You step in, and the door snugs shut behind you with that final little kiss of wood on wood. The hallway smells faintly of soap and a clean biggie shirt. Your voice, when you use it, sounds too loud for a second, like stepping into a church, so you lower it out of respect for walls that are getting ready to hold sleep. The bathroom light is gentle and honest. You look in the mirror and see the day printed on your face. A streak of green near your ear, a salt line at your hairline, 3 dots of reddish dirt where you brushed away a mosquito like a tyrant. You grin. The mirror grins back, crooked, like a friend trying not to laugh. The bath is a long, quiet exhale. Water turns brownish for a blink when your feet meet it. The day loosening its hold, letting go without a fight. You discover a little sting where the water finds a scrape you forgot about. You hiss between your teeth and then forget again because the warmth is bigger than the sting. Soap slides on your skin, making soft squeaks at your knees and shoulders, and the smell, whatever it is tonight, twists into the steam like it belongs to the season. When you sink under and open your eyes, the ceiling is a shimmering world that makes your bathroom look like a different, kinder planet. A towel wraps the day away in thick cotton. You rub your hair until it tries to stand up and salute. Pyjamas find you, soft with 1,000 washes, and you slide into them like a fish into a favourite part of the river. Brushing your teeth becomes a quiet dance in the mirror. Foam, spit, rinse, gargle, the universal soundtrack of bedtime. Somewhere in the house a drawer closes, a light click miss, a parent's steps grow slower. You open the window a thumb so the night can send in its postcard. Cricket song, cool thread of air, the faintest trace of someone's drier vent like warm bread. Your bed holds the shape of you the way a friend holds a secret. Sheets are a little cool at first, then exactly right. The pillow has one good side and you find it on the first try because tonight everything is on your side. You lay out the souvenirs on your nightstand. A bottle cap that has become a coin. A washer with a story, a leaf you carried home because it was shaped like a canoe, and you thought your toy dinosaur might need a boat. The card from your spokes is drying there too, its corner softened from wind. It will click again tomorrow. You know this as certainly as you know your name. The house does small house things as you settle, the soft click of cooling pipes, a distant fridge sigh, the tiny tick of a clock that has never been on time and never needed to be. Your room has its shadows memorized. The lamp from the street arranges a square on your wall and a rectangle on the floor, and you fit your foot into one of them because it seems polite to stand where the light invites you. You climb back in, curl up, and the whole day arranges itself behind your eyes in order, and also not in order. The tightrope of the curb, the stutter of a baseball bouncing off a crack, the flash of a firefly in your hands, the wet stars of sprinkler spray on your shins. Someone sits on the edge of your bed and asks about your favourite part. You answer and then add another, and then one more, because choosing is hard when everything tasted like summer. They smooth your hair with a palm that knows how to be both careful and brave. Tomorrow, you ask, not as a demand but as a wonder. Tomorrow, they say, with the confidence of people who have seen many tomorrows and kept most of them safe. The room grows a little softer, as if the walls leaned in to listen. You close your eyes and the evening keeps going inside your chest now instead of out on the street. The lamp hums a lullaby through the window screen. Crickets stitch the dark together so it won't fall apart. A car passes slow, its tyres whispering a promise that doesn't need words. Your breath finds the same rhythm as the fan. Your body remembers hop, skip, pedal, run, and then remembers stillness the way you remember a path you've walked 1,000 times. The last thing you feel is your own small smile. The last thing you hear is someone downstairs turning off the kitchen light. And the house, grateful, settles an inch deeper into night. Outro. If you were there, on a porch under a lamp, knees dusty with chalk, heart warm with the last popsicle of the day, then you know, and if you weren't, you still know, because the feeling is older than streetlights and newer than the next evening. Thank you for drifting back with me through the glow and the games, through the hush that falls when the lamps blink on and the walk home that turns a street into a string of pearls. Tell me where in the world you're watching from, and what your neighbourhood sounded like when day became night. Tomorrow we'll meet again at that soft border, somewhere between laughter and crickets, between the last good night and the first dream, right where the sleepy American likes to rest.